Google Analytics says I have 7 seconds to convince you to watch the whole episode. Watch the whole episode, you creeps. You're screwing up my numbers, man. Listen, it's Sunday. Sunday story time. This is a day that I'm going to take every Sunday and tell you a story of commodity and currency trades of the past. And there's a lot of them. And it's fun, and it also goes to illustrate the broader points that I make in my weekly show. These are markets. They are run by people, and people are flawed. Everybody's looking to get rich in the cryptocurrency craze that's going on right now. Nothing wrong with that, but people can go crazy. And here's one quick story. And today's episode is going to have a couple short stories. Other episodes will just have one story and it'll be a little bit longer form. Here's one quick story. This is from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett once said, if you ever have the misfortune of receiving sudden wealth, and somebody gives you $1 million and you've never had $1 million before, then you need to take that $1 million and go hire millionaires to teach you how to be a millionaire. So what he was saying is having $1 million does not a millionaire make, right? It's a mindset. And that is the primary focus of my show. We're going to talk about coins and things I like and things I don't like, and different trading strategies and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, this show is about mindset, your mindset. And good news, real quick, the show is you're about to see a massive improvement in the quality of this show as far as graphics and production and all that, because one of the watchers of the YouTube show and listeners to the podcast wrote me in a direct message and said, hey, listen, he said, I love the show, but listen, man, your production quality is a little bit doo. So he's a graphics guy, and he's coming alongside of me in this show, and he's going to make it better. And so now the show has a producer. Look at that! Like already, I've got 60 followers, and I've got about the same number on the podcast as far as downloads and things that I can track. And though comparatively to Altcoin Buzz and some other shows, those other shows are big. And they're good. Like Altcoin Buzz, you'll hear me recommending them over and over again. And they have hundreds of thousands of views. But at one point, those people had 60 subscribers, just like me. And when they saw their numbers and they were like, "Oh, I've got 60 subscribers," they were thrilled at that point, just like I am right now. I am so happy that you guys have subscribe to the show, listen to the podcast, wrote me comments, asked me questions. I couldn't be more thrilled about that. Keep that coming. Another story here, real quick. The thing to keep in mind is that cryptocurrencies are just another commodity. All right, any currency it's just a commodity, and it's traded on an open market. And I am a commodity trader. All right. So this is what fascinates me. And there are a lot of stories that have brought us to this point in the sociological evolution of mankind. And those stories are important to remember. I'll tell you, here's a funny one. Now in America, we have shall we say, a less than healthy overall diet. We eat a lot of really bad foods, and we have a lot of bad habits when it comes to eating our foods. And so antacids are a big seller in the United States because we eat a lot of barbecue, we eat a lot of fast food, we eat a lot of dairy, and as you get older, your body can't break those things down as efficiently, so you need to have antacids. And so you see things like Tums and Rolex and not Rolex, Rolaids at the counter. All right, those are so that you don't feel the pains of your bad eating decisions. Those antacids, those are made from minerals that come out of the ground, right? Commodities. Those Tums and Rolaids and all that stuff are actual, you know, powdered minerals that somebody had to go out with with mining equipment and dig that stuff up out of the ground and then turn it into a little tablet so that you could eat it, so that you wouldn't feel the pain of having just eaten, a rack of baby back ribs. So there was this one guy one time, and he was a commodity trader, and he traded those particular minerals. And there was one time that he made such a massive trade on these minerals that he became independently wealthy for the rest of his life on one trade. And because of that trade, he was dubbed with the name the Fart King. That's a true story, right? Somebody traded those minerals that antacids are made out of on such a high level that forevermore he was referred to as the Fart King. That's hilarious. I love that story. So why would I tell you that story? What sort of, overall importance does that have to the commodity market? It just goes to illustrate that it's just people, and people are funny, and everything works because people work. People do what they do, and if you make a huge transaction and make a bunch of money off of the minerals that make antacids, then people may one day call you the Fart King. All right, so that's one story. And I'm going to tell you another story about a man named Brian Moore. Brian Moore was also a commodity trader, and a damn good one. He had a powerful combination of strong work ethic and being incredibly smart. And he worked very hard as a broker. Made a bunch of money, put on a lot of trades, and made a lot of money in commissions. And in fact, he made so much money that he finally got to the place as a futures and options trader in his own life that he could afford to have his own firm, to be the principal of his own commodity trading firm. Because getting to that level costs a lot of money, and you have to have very special licenses. You got to hire lawyers, and you got to have a place of business. It's very expensive. And he had enough money to do that. And he and a friend of his, named, his last name was Cunningham. The two of these men, they were young men. They were in their early 30s, I think, at the time. They started up their own currency trading outfit, and they were the principals of that currency trading firm. And the name of that firm was Currency Trading International, and it was in Newport Beach, California, on a place called Fashion Island. And Fashion Island, it's pretty much kind of like it sounds. It's like stepping into a utopia of expensive toys, right? When you go to Fashion Island, you see nothing but Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Bentleys and people wearing $5,000 suits and dresses, and I mean it's just a beautiful place. And this is where they put their office. Matter of fact, on the floor that their trading firm was on, it was their firm and a sports agency that represented Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone, if you remember those guys from the basketball years. Anyways, so they started their firm, and they hired a bunch of good brokers and started making a lot of money. In fact, they were making about $40 million a year a piece. Okay? So think about that. Like, think about it in your own goals. Like, wouldn't you like to have $40 million? And even more, wouldn't you like to have $40 million every year? That would be like winning the lottery as an occupation. Like every year you just win the lottery. And these guys continued on. And unfortunately, they saw some shortcuts that they could have taken. I won't get too far into the woods on what those shortcuts are, because then you get into how market regulation works and all that, and it's pretty boring. But let's just say that whenever there's a lot of money, there's a potential to do things the wrong way. And unfortunately, Mr. Moore and Mr. Cunningham decided that they were going to take a shortcut. All right, they infringed upon the law, and because they did that, the government, the regulatory bodies that are there to protect the citizenry from evil doings, wrongdoings, they came down on these two men. Okay, and the firm was raided, and it was shut down by the SEC, that's the Securities Exchange Commission. And later on in life, as that case continued, and because whenever there's things like that, there's years and years and years of lawyers and court dates, and those things don't go away overnight. It takes a long time. And at the end of that, or towards the end of all that litigation, Brian Moore, who had millions and millions and millions of dollars, had his youth, he had his health, he had everything, he ended up putting a shotgun in his mouth and pulling the trigger with his toes. He's dead now. I knew Brian Moore because I worked for him. I worked for Currency Trading International in Newport Beach on Fashion Island. I can't tell you how many times I've met Dennis Rodman and Carl Malone and Carmen Electra, because you remember Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman, they were like married for a day or something like that. I met those people regularly on the elevator because their sports agent was on my floor. I knew Brian Moore. He did some bad things, but he was always nice to me. He was a good guy to me. But he did things the wrong way, and ultimately, the amount of money that he had made no difference as to who he was. So the moral to that story is money does not build character, it exposes it. And as we go through these cryptocurrency markets and we all try to take advantage of the volatility, the massive amount of volatility in these markets right now, it is very important that you be clear in your goals. How much is enough? What's the number? What is it that you want? Because if you don't have those definitions in your mind and have those definitions clear, you're going to find that money's going to create more problems for you than it's going to solve. So that's it for today's Sunday morning storytelling segment. As we go on in the future, just like today, I'm going to have some lighthearted stories and I'm going to have some heavy-hearted stories. But all of these stories will be true to the best of my ability. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. And as we go through this week, we will talk about coins, different coins, things that are look like opportunities and things that don't. But just a couple of things before I go. If you're watching Altcoin Buzz, and you're watching some of the other, there's a couple of good shows on YouTube, and if you watch those shows, when the ads come on and you have the option to press on skip ad, if you press skip ad, then those shows don't get paid. Okay? So if you want those people to be successful and you want those people to make money without you actually having to come out of pocket, just let that whole commercial play out, even if it's a long one, because if that whole commercial runs, then the company that paid for that commercial has to pay that channel. All right, so you can give those channels money for free. It won't cost you anything. It'll cost the company that paid for the advertisement. You see what I'm saying? Also, whenever you watch those other channels, watch the whole show, because what that tells Google Analytics is that people are genuinely interested in what that show is about and who those people are, and it makes it so that they can expand their audience. So when you watch a show, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, then just open up a new tab and go about your business, or get up and walk away, but let that show play out so that those people can get the credit and the effect in the Google algorithm that they're looking for. That's one thing that you can do for the content creator community, is try to let the whole episode play out and don't skip over those commercials so that we can all get paid and it won't cost you anything. So that's the tip for the day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.